When it comes to college football, every team has their traditions. And when it comes to traditions, it's hard to beat a school that treats every game day as a family reunion, spreads their own currency throughout local economies, and holds the title of the most exciting 25 seconds in college football. When it comes to college football traditions, the Clemson Tigers have everything you could ask for, and so much more. Every Friday, regardless of if it's a home game, an away game, or even if it's during the middle of the offseason, Clemson fans dress in as much orange as they can. This tradition was started in 1999 as a marketing campaign by the university to promote Clemson across the state. Fans took this and ran with it, turning it into a way of life every Friday. Today, solid orange represents unity among players, students, alumni, and fans. Wearing orange on Fridays is taken so seriously that when someone forgot to wear orange on campus one Friday, they received a formal citation reminding them to wear orange next time. When compared to the other powerful schools in college football, Clemson's colors are pretty unique. The players have worn a similar looking orange helmet featuring a white tiger paw since 1970. For home games, the Tigers wear Clemson orange jerseys with goal line white pants, and for away games, they wear all white. Once a year, for their Veterans Day game, the Tigers will dress in regalia purple as a nod to Purple Heart recipients. This is also the one home game a year where fans are expected to wear not orange, but purple instead. Occasionally, you might see players wearing not white pants, but orange breeches. The first time the Tigers wore orange breeches was in 1980 against rival South Carolina. Clemson was having a relatively mediocre season, being only 5-5. Before the season, Coach Danny Ford had ordered the orange breeches, but he waited to break them out until they could serve as extra motivation against the Gamecocks. It worked, as Clemson upset South Carolina 27-6. The next season, the Tigers would wear the orange breeches in every game and would go on to win the national championship. As time went on, they lost their significance in Clemson's culture. However, when Coach Sweeney introduced mandated uniform rules, the orange breeches were only to be worn in championship clinching games or the championship games themselves. This caused them to regain their significance and has made orange breeches iconic in Tiger Town. One tradition that is entirely unique to Clemson fans can be found wherever they play each weekend, especially during away games. For the 1977 season, Georgia Tech decided to stop playing football games against Clemson because the Yellow Jackets wanted every game to be in Atlanta, but the Tigers wanted the schedule to rotate between the schools every year. After Georgia Tech stopped playing Clemson, students and alumni planned to protest. They were to gather as many $2 bills as they could and spend them in the local economies during away games. $2 bills were chosen because of how unique they were, and as if that wasn't enough to make them stand out, Clemson fans stamped them with bright orange tiger paws on each side of the bill. Local banks tend to order extra $2 bills during the season, and some banks in Clemson even keep the stamps on hand for fans to make the process easier for them. This protest effectively showed the buying power that hosting Clemson can bring to a city, and is a tradition that still carries on today. If you ever find yourself walking into the Clemson practice fields, you may notice something that seems out of place: tombstones. Starting in 1948, the Tigers have added a tombstone for every road game that they win against a top 25 opponent. Today, there are more than 100 tombstones in the graveyard, 26 of which have been added under Dabo's watch. Another thing you can find in Clemson on game day, no matter when the game starts, is Clemson fans arriving at campus at dawn. Students are required to move their cars on Friday nights before the game and take shuttles back to campus in order to make room for the diehard fans. Southern Living magazine voted Clemson the #1 tailgating spot in the South 2 years in a row, and it's easy to see why. Many fans start cooking the minute they arrive and don't stop until they have to pack up to leave. Some fans don't even bother going into the game and just bring generators and TVs to watch the games from their tailgate. Back in 1989, when Dabo Swinney played at Alabama, the Crimson Tide had a tradition of greeting fans as the players walked into the stadium. This gave Dabo an idea called the Tiger Walk, which he launched in 2008 when he became the Tigers' interim head coach. Around 30,000 people showed up for the first Tiger Walk, and both Dabo and the team knew it was a hit. It gave fans a way to interact with the players, and gave players a morale boost before entering the stadium. Another idea that Dabo came up with was to place a plaque for each past team captain, along with their uniform style and jersey number. $3.7 million and 254 bronze plaques later, the project was complete, along with room for another 50 years of captains to be honored. After pregame warm-ups, every player on the team and every coach line up around midfield, and with their arms linked together, walk towards the west end zone. Coach Sweeney can always be found front and center during the Walk of Champions, which has become an important display of unity for the Tigers. After the Walk of Champions, the players and staff head towards the west end zone and exit underneath the stands to go to the locker room for their final game instructions. Then, they exit the stadium where each player drops one poker chip per game played that season into the all-in bucket. This tradition was started by Dabo to show players' commitment to giving their 110% all-in effort for the upcoming game, as well as every game before it. After dropping in their chips, players board a convoy of buses that take them around the stadium to the hill. This bus ride is displayed on the big screen in Memorial Stadium and does its part in getting fans hyped up for the game. After they arrive to the east side of the stadium, Dabo runs off of the bus and puts one hand on a rock and greets the fans with the other. This isn't just any rock, it's a kind of magic rock. Well, at least that's how it's seen by players and fans. The rock was originally a gift to legendary coach of the Tigers, Frank Howard, and was originally from the actual Death Valley. Coach Howard actually used it as a doorstop until it was placed on top of the hill in 1966, but it didn't become a tradition until the Tigers faced Wake Forest during their 1967 season. Coach Howard famously told players before that game,
"I'm not going to give 110% to keep their filthy hands off my rock."
The Tigers won this game 23-6, and rubbing the rock solidified itself as a tradition in Death Valley. Howard's rock sat on top of the hill on a pedestal, pretty much unprotected, but when it was vandalized in 2013, more security measures were put in place. The rock now sits inside of a reinforced glass case and has security cameras watching all angles 24/7. The morning before every game, the case is removed so that fans are able to look at and touch the rock, and the coaches and players can touch the rock before they run down the hill. The other coaches and players follow Coach Sweeney, and after all of them gather on top of the hill, a cannon is shot and
the most exciting 25 seconds in college football
begins. The tradition of running down the hill actually started because it was the most practical way for players to get from the Fike Fieldhouse, where they dressed, to the field inside of Memorial Stadium. The cannon that is shot isn't just used when the Tigers run down the hill, but is also used during kickoffs and every time the Tigers score. The idea for the cannon came in 1953 from George Bennett, a lifetime fan and eventual cheerleader for the Tigers. His dad went to an Army football game at West Point, where he saw their cheerleading unit fire a cannon every time the team scored. Mr. Bennett bought a small cannon and gave it to his son, who brought it to Coach Frank Howard with the idea. Coach Howard's response was, "What makes you think we are going to score any touchdowns?" But after more convincing, he agreed to the idea. The tradition could have been short-lived, as the first time it was supposed to be used, the cheerleader assigned to firing the cannon nearly blew his foot off. The next week, a hand truck was purchased for the cannon to rest on, which made the process of firing it much safer and much easier. This hand truck is the same one that is used today by the Clemson cheerleaders. The song that you can hear in the background as the Tigers run down the hill is known as
the song that shakes the Southland, Tiger Egg.
Band director Dean Ross found the sheet music for the song in 1942 in an Atlanta music store and brought it back to Clemson to play during football games. Today, the song is played not only as the players run down the hill, but also every time the Tigers scored during the game. While the band plays Tiger Rag, Clemson fans clap along until the song repeats itself, where they cheer. But this isn't the most popular cheer that Clemson fans have come up with. That would belong to the Tigers' cadence count. This tradition dates back to the university's days as a military college, which it was from when it was founded in 1889 until 1955. Another tradition that takes place after Clemson scores can be seen right next to the student section, where the Tigers hoist it up onto a board and does one push-up for every points that the Tigers have scored so far in that game. This tradition was started by mascot Zach Mills in 1978 and isn't as easy as it looks. During a blowout 82-24 win against Wake Forest in 1981, mascot Ricky Capps did a total of 465 push-ups throughout the game. When the Tiger was asked about the conditions during an interview, he said, "It can get hot in there, but it's also hard to breathe sometimes too." The Tiger isn't the only mascot that you can find at a Clemson game. The Cub was introduced in 1993 to inspire younger fans to become involved with the university. The younger-looking mascot is outfitted with a jersey number of 1/2 and wears oversized Nike clown shoes to give it a younger appearance. The identity of both the Tiger and the Cub are kept a secret until graduation, where they reveal themselves by wearing the tiger paws and tails. After every game in Death Valley, regardless of if they win or lose, Clemson hosts gather at the Paw, a tradition that invites every fan to come onto the field. This tradition was formalized in 2003 but had existed unofficially for decades before. Coach Frank Howard encouraged Clemson students and fans to enter the field after the game as far back as 1942. He believed that it was a great way for fans to interact with the players just after some of their biggest performances. This tradition has led to many fans of other schools to criticize Clemson fans for rushing the field after beating much smaller schools such as Syracuse or Charleston Southern. However, this doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the outcome of the game and is just another uniquely Clemson tradition. Thanks for watching.